Good morning. Oops. Am I having audio issues? Uh, Hi, sweet potato. Is my mic working? I feel my mic isn't working. Let me know if my mic's giving you guys any issues. Oh, what are you drinking, sweet potato? I'm drinking this drink called cookie butter mocha. Usually I don't like cookie butter, but when you mix it with mocha, I kind of like it. I can't lie. I go for the kinda acid and sour tones when it comes to drinks, so, sometimes I surprise myself when I can actually drink something sweet. Oh my god, I love you know what? I do like cinnamon in my coffee, I'm not gonna lie. I don't know, I think I've changed as a person, I'm kinda scared of myself. I like pumpkin drinks, I like cinnamon. I never liked any of this stuff. And I'm not saying you should be ashamed of liking pumpkin or cinnamon. I'm saying in my case, I've always had an issue, but it just my taste buds couldn't register pumpkin or cinnamon or caramel for that matter. Well, that sounds good. I don't know. I don't know why I'm live so early in the morning. I think I'm just trying to get my YouTube groove back on. I don't know. This has been the third live I've done pretty much consecutively within a short span, if you will. Before these three lives, I took that break from July all the way to September. So I'm trying to get myself back into the fold. But I do this because I've always enjoyed to an extent doing live streams, even though it's completely out of character for me. I don't know. I don't know how to say it. I guess I just love going live because I have the opportunity of listening to myself. And sometimes I feel that I can get confident behind the mic. I gain a bit of confidence when I speak because I'm a highly introverted person. So when I go live, I feel I can explore another layer of myself, sort of as if you're on TV, but this is different because this is YouTube. But I can basically hear myself out, and what I don't enjoy about myself, I tend to think back and wonder, hey, can I improve this about myself? I sound a little bit too serious. I sound a little bit too quiet. How can I improve this about myself? Well, sweet potato, I mean, I appreciate it. I mean, I have to really, the worst part about me is that I've never been able to feel comfortable in my own skin. And I've always lived with a layer of self hatred that I can't explain. I've just always been my worst critic, and usually I always go along with whatever the naysayers have to say about me. So I feel that I'm responsible for being such a lightning rod when it comes to negativity in general. Because it's like I need to know when to draw the line in the sand, but I feel that I always have other people drawing it for me. And that's always been difficult to manage. I always want to pretend, that I rise above it and no one can see me squirm. But there are days where life pushes me to a point where I can't handle what I'm facing. Oh yeah, sweet potato. And I mean, I appreciate it because sometimes the reality is you have to hear it from other people. Unfortunately, saying it to yourself takes a lot of work. And unfortunately, you have to rely on other people for positive feedback because sometimes when you're trying to look for that all by yourself, you don't know what words to use, especially if you've pretty much hated your whole life, or most of it at least. It's really hard to use positive affirmations when they feel yucky to you. And the worst part about it is I've developed a victim complex of some sort that has made me hate myself to an extent that I can't even explain. The rabbit hole runs so deep because I've been a victim of my own nonsense. And it's hard to really put it into words. But when I use this platform, I use it, to shit and giggle here and there. But I also feel that if I had the drive and purpose, I feel that there is a likelihood I would make a good motivational speaker because I feel that I have the ability to influence people through my words in a way that I can't even influence myself. So, what that means is I know how to make other people feel good about themselves versus making myself feel good. I've never been really good at making myself feel good. I feel my talent has always been I know how to soothe and I know how to appease others before myself. Hey, I'm Wit. Sweet potato. Sometimes I feel that, and I don't mean this to be melodramatic. I just feel that I guess it's just me being honest about myself. But sometimes I feel that my grandmother sort of won in a sense. I don't know if I can say she's won the war, but so far she's won the battle in terms of, how she raised me. And I think that she raised me in a way where she knew she wanted me to feel small in comparison to everyone else. And I feel that she won that battle. I feel that she overthrew me in a sense because unfortunately that's what I've allowed. I've allowed myself to become smaller than everyone else. I nod my head in agreement with everyone who makes me feel small. And that's not an easy situation to be in. I brush it off and I bury the feelings that come along with it. But sometimes when you feel too hollow, sometimes you need a vent. Sometimes you need to open that duffel bag and just air out whatever you're feeling. Um, and I guess it's just the curse of getting older. Sometimes I wish when I was younger, I had the same feelings I have now because there's so much I could have done with myself. if I had this level of awareness back then. Because back then, I was in a constant fog machine, in an endless maze filled with fog, and I couldn't tell from left to right. I was always distracted by my thoughts, distracted by everyone else, and I ended up forgetting about myself in the process. It is a difficult situation to be in. Um, and basically, being vulnerable is just something that has been hitting me more recently than ever before. I joked with my therapist and I told him, I think I might be going through a quarter life crisis. Some people live their lives normally until they hit a midlife crisis. I feel that my crisis is coming in a little bit earlier than expected. But I feel that I'm the type of person where I know how to heal others, but I never know how to heal myself. Does that make sense? I mean, maybe it doesn't make sense at all. I just feel that I know how to heal others. I know how to lavish people with comforting words, but I never seem to be able to do that towards myself. What is? I always tried to make things right for everyone. I was lucky I married an amazing man that made me understand my value. Plus, I'm very independent. You know what? God, like, God, I don't know what's happening to me. Um, I mean, I read your message and I just became immediately emotional. I don't know why. Um, I think that's really beautiful to find someone who can basically stop you in your breaks and tell you, hey, enough is enough. Stop focusing on others and start valuing yourself for once. I don't know why, but I feel that that's basically what I've been looking for such a long time. When I read your comment, I was obviously happy for you. Um, don't get it wrong, but then it makes me sad because I'm thinking, wow, I wish I had. I don't care if it's a relationship, a friendship, but something that can make me feel like that more often. Oh, hi, palettes. My superpower has always been, uh, and I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not God. I don't walk on water. Okay, I'm not God here. But there are people, of course, where um we hit elbows with each other, and I've had those type of relationships myself. But generally speaking, I've always been good in terms of always treating people well, always putting people on pedestals. And my superpower has always been knowing how to make others feel good about themselves or feel better about themselves. Oh, he passed away. Oh God. Oh, well, let me tell you. I went through a very, I wanted to basically I wanted to do more live streams. What was it? Like at least around August. But I don't know about you guys, but August was not a good month for me. I'm telling you, August kicked me in the butt. I was pretty much restless and unable to get much sleep throughout the whole month. At best, I only slept like maybe 3 to 5 hours average. In some cases, I only slept 2 to 4 hours. And I didn't have a good August at all. It was it was rocky from beginning to end. And the only reason that I was able to sort of get myself out of the gutter was because my therapist was putting me in my place. But otherwise, I was struggling throughout the whole month. I was going through a depression that made me feel afraid of being in my own skin. Yeah, but you know what, sweet potato, the more I realize it, that's why I've been pretty much a lone wolf throughout my whole life. Because even if I know right from wrong, it seems like I can never apply that knowledge when I'm faced with a situation, such as a friendship or a relationship. I can know better all day long, but I still put people on pedestals. It's like my subconsciousness takes over, and then I end up making a decision I regret later on. Like when I'm with that person, it's almost like I'm blindsided. I don't realize right away, hey, I'm putting too much energy into this person, even though they're not good for me. And it only takes me time once the situation ends to realize, wow, I gave this bitch too much time and too much energy. You know, I give I give people too much time and too much energy. And that's why I've been pretty much a lone wolf because I'm not saying I like to be alone. I just never been good in relationships. I never built adequate social skills. That's just never been me. But that doesn't come from a place of me having a superiority complex. It just comes with the territory of knowing that, in a sense, I know that if I'm with someone, I know how I'm going to treat them. I know that I'm going to value them. But I know that if I do entertain someone, they're not going to treat me with the same energy I give them. And that's why I kind of go, well, what's the point of me getting excited over anyone? And the chances of me receiving the same love and respect is zilch to none. You know, I don't know. Maybe I'm just too real. Maybe I'm just too honest, and maybe that's why I attract the shit I attract. Let me see here. Yeah. You know what? What really brings me to shame is feeling that my therapy journey has been longer than I wanted. You know, my therapy journey has been very long. And sometimes I feel, is it worth going? Am I making the right choice by entertaining it? Am I making enough progress? Um, so I don't know if any of you, maybe you, sweet potato. Um, so back in, what was it? May, I made a community post, and you probably forgot about it, and that's cool. But back in May, I made a community post, and I basically was announcing the fact that I was in a relationship back in May. And the last time I was in a relationship was 3 years ago. And what is it? It ended back in May of 2022. So I started dating someone in May of 2025. And I got all giddy and optimistic about it. I was really happy. I don't know, for me, I love seeing myself in love with someone. I don't know how to describe it. I feel like whatever else I had going on before I was single suddenly disappears and it diminishes completely. Hi, George. So I love seeing myself in love. And unfortunately, that relationship ended 3 months later in August because I just had to end it. I felt that I was giving, like excusing him, like he was giving me the silent treatment. He was trying to push me away a little bit. He was a nice guy and everything, but I noticed that he was giving me the silent treatment and he was pushing me away. And I felt that, okay, I'm not gonna go through this rodeo again. I'm not gonna entertain this shit again. I deserve more respect than this. And I'm not gonna allow you to breadcrumb. Fuck it. That's what I said to myself. Fuck how it happens, how it feels. I need to end this. And I ended the relationship. But something happened to me where I didn't handle this breakup really well. I don't know what happened to me. I don't know if anyone can relate to me, but have any of you been headstrong through several breakups and then there's just that one breakup that just makes the whole Jenga tower fall apart? That's how this breakup felt to me. Um, because when I met him, there was something about him that felt, I don't know, he had I don't know, his aura, his energy felt so inviting, so soothing, so gentle, so kind. Something about him just, his energy just made me feel at ease. And I'm a very anxious person in general. I'm highly anxious around people, but when I was around him, I felt that my anxiety melted away. I felt that I could be vulnerable. I felt that I could talk to him without any hesitation in my voice. And I don't think I honestly can't remember a time I ever felt that comfortable around someone. Usually, when I'm around someone, my guard is up. I'm always looking everywhere around the room. I'm trying to distract myself mentally. Oh, George, let me see. You gotta run when you first. I, yeah. I don't know. It's just, is it just me, or does it feel that there's just a lot more red flags going on these days than green flags? Because I just feel like I'm not expecting people to be perfect. I'm trying to not be like, when you create your online profile, right? And people put expectations that, oh, I want someone who's 6 feet tall. I want someone who has six abs. I want someone who makes a six-figure salary. I'm not trying to be that type of person because it's very easy for me to mentally filter my options. And I'm trying to be like, okay, come back down to reality, be realistic with what you want and need in life. Don't try to put your expectations way out there. Yeah, sweet potato. But this breakup, what really hurt me about the breakup breakups happen. It's not a big deal, right? That's life, right? So it is what it is. Maybe I took it too personally. Maybe I fucked up by taking it too personally. And I should have been more of an adult and I should have said, well, fuck it. It happened. There's nothing else I can do about it. But this breakup hurt in a sense because what's the best expression I can use? Do y'all feel that you've ever lived your life with a poker face, like you're wearing a mask, or you're performing or creating an identity outside of your own when you're around others? Like my identity is usually I'm stoic and I try not to give a fuck, and that's how I usually am around people. I'm like, oh, nothing you say or do phases me, whatever. I'm cold to the touch. There's nothing you can really say or do to hurt me. Um, you know what, George? The problem is, and I agree with you. Unfortunately, this fairy tale thinking can get you in trouble, and I got in trouble for it. So I'll give you credit where credit is due. You know, I don't know how to put it into words. The issue I had with this guy is that, unlike any other person I've communicated in the past, he was consistent. He was consistent. We would talk here and there throughout the day. He would tell me, it was hard to erase his nice gestures because he was like, "Good morning, baby," like. But he expressed so much concern throughout the relationship. He was always worried about me, and letting that go was extremely difficult. But one of the reasons why I sort of moved on was because you know what I felt? Um, I don't feel like he was dating me because he wanted to be with me. I think he dated me because he was treating me as a nice distraction. Like when you're going through so much in life, you date someone in order for your life to become a little bit easier or whatnot. And then once you're ready to let go of the bone, if you will, then you let go of the bone. I feel that's what he was doing to me. I feel that he was making me believe this was a serious relationship, but this was just a nice distraction for him this entire time. Oh, George, and that could be true. I'm not the type to judge. I mean, if you sleep around, you sleep around. Um, I'm not gonna act as a prude or anything, but because I mean, I can understand relationships are not always set in stone, and most of the time they're gonna end up in heartbreak at some point or another. But if that's what you prefer and that's who you are as a person, then just I'm the type where let's not cut corners here. Just tell me that's what you want, and that's it. Like don't tell me you want something and then be completely about something else. If you just want to sleep around, then be about it, but don't preach that you want something serious. Yeah, George. And you know, I think what really happened was I did something risky and maybe completely out of character. The relationship ended in August, and what I did was eventually I decided this month, earlier this month, I decided, let me reach out, because I think he blocked me from Messenger, but I was able to find someone he was friends with, and I messaged that person, and in order for him to reach back to me. And then I would say probably, what's today? Is today the 19th? I believe today's 19th. Yeah, today's the 19th. Yeah, George, I agree with that. I had remarried, but turned out after 6 years to be like, oh my God, that's, oh, sweet potato. That's just messed up. I feel that nowadays, and this is even sickening of me to even admit because I don't even want to preach this into the world, and I don't want to get anyone's hopes down. But I feel like, am I crazy to believe that I think that the relationship with the highest success rate is being friends with benefits with someone over actual marriage? Because at least with friends and with benefits, you don't have to take them seriously. They come and go. You don't have to worry where you stand with them. And if they leave you, you don't have to leave with, the relationship doesn't bring you this unnecessary emotional baggage afterward. You just realize, well, they left. Sayonara. Go fuck yourself. The end. That's how I feel. That's, I don't know. That's how I feel nowadays. George, this is what I'm gonna say. I don't know if I really came out of the other side of the situation stronger, but I realized, I think this might be the first time where I'm not blaming myself for the relationship ending. Because usually when a relationship ends, I always go into this inner monologue where I criticize myself endlessly, like, look what you did. If you didn't do this, then the relationship wouldn't have ended. I go through this endless monologue that doesn't have an end to it. And you know, oh George, let's just say that in close to I'm gonna be sooner or later I'm gonna reach my 40s. Let's just put it that way. I'm gonna be scared when I hit 40. I'm not gonna lie. It's like if my life doesn't get better by then I'm really gonna feel concerned. But so this relationship, going back to what I was saying, back in August, this had like a huge it took a huge psychological toll on me where I started to cry on the spot just even thinking about him. I would cry hysterically. I just couldn't explain what was going on with me. Usually when a relationship ends, I just like emotionally numb myself and I try to forget about the person. But this time I just started to cry hysterically. And I don't know how I got to that point. Because usually I don't let people see me sweat. Usually I just like, okay, well, it happened for a reason and I move on. I try to take the high road immediately. But this time, um, the breakup hit a nerve and I don't know why it got to that point. Usually I think I'm strong, I'm handling the situation maturely. But this relationship, something happened where I didn't handle the breakup as well as I could have. And so what I did differently was I tried to message one of his friends to see if he could reach back to me. And then, I was just messaging him, and I think this was a week ago, like 8 days ago. I messaged him, I asked him how he was doing, and immediately, I felt that there was a different tone. Like he was trying to push me away, like saying, "Oh, this is the last time I'll have a conversation with you." And I'm thinking, why? Like, what is this axe to grind? Because we didn't get to the point where you should have any bad blood towards me. If it's warranted, that's fine. But there was no bad blood between us for you to even say that in the first place. And I was like, okay. So I kept messaging him back and forth, back and forth. And the reason I had to reach out to him was because I didn't want to leave any loose ends. I just wanted to sort of address the voice clip I sent him. I told him I wish I was a little bit more gentle with my delivery, but I was still upset with you because I felt that you were misleading me. You weren't honest with your feelings. And I felt that at some point, I kind of realized, like, yeah, I feel like you're just trying to pin this on me. He said that I wasn't taking his situation seriously with his family, and I know that his grandfather's been having health issues, I believe, heart related, and I completely understood his struggle. I believe his mom may have dementia as well. So remember when I said that I felt he used this relationship as a distraction? I feel that he used this relationship as a distraction because of what he has going at home. And I completely understand it, but I also have to be fair towards myself and realize you might be going through all of this on your own and your plate might be full, but you should not have included me in the first place. I should have not been a portion in your plate if it was too full to add anything else. You should have kept me away from dating. You should have been far away from me. You should have not entertained a relationship with me if you have a lot going on in your life. And what upsets me is that I felt that he just started using excuses when I reached back to him, basically saying, "Well, there's a a distance between us. We live hours apart from each other." And I'm like, "You knew that from the very beginning. We have distance between us, but yet you entertained a relationship with me. Why couldn't you just say, I don't want to entertain a relationship? We can just be friends and keep it moving." If what is it, like maybe 3 hour gap, like between us is too much for you, I'm not upset about it. Just say that you don't want to date me because there's a 3 hour gap between us. But for him to just entertain a relationship, again, I feel that he did it to distract him from what he had going at home. He's not gonna say that to me, and I can't 100% prove that's a fact. But I have to also go with this is the only hunch I have. And the fact that he brought it up during the conversation is kind of like I'm waving this flag at you. You better start paying attention. And I took notice of it. Um, and I feel like some people do that. I feel some people entertain dating just so that they can more or less make you feel like, oh, I really want to be with you, but in reality, I just want to soothe whatever I have going on with me emotionally. So I felt like I was just sort of a good stress reliever, and that was it. That's all I was to him, a good stress reliever. And the hardest part, it wasn't that we broke up. The hardest part was the aftermath. I cried hysterically over him. Yeah, sweet potato, and I just don't know why. I I I honestly don't have an answer. Why he didn't choo I guess he wasn't honest with me because then he probably felt that if he did tell me he had a lot going at home, he probably felt that I wouldn't have dated him. He probably because I other than that, I don't know why else he kept that to himself. And then one of the things he said that really just upset me was he said that he was like he felt like he was over this relationship because um I made him feel like he was ignoring me or not taking me seriously because I complained about the fact that during the voice clip that I sent him that he was sort of evading meeting up with me, and I got upset because I told him multiple times, "Hey, we can create halfway points. You don't have to drive up here all the way by yourself. You don't have to drive up here all the time." The only reason I was allowing it was because he wanted to drive up here, and that's it. But I offered him, I said, "You want me to go over there? You want me to visit you?" And he said, "No, don't worry. I'll visit you instead." Like, well, I'm trying to compromise here. Why are you trying to make me look unreasonable? Don't make me look I don't really like when people make me look unreasonable. If I'm showing that I care enough to compromise, don't turn it around and say that I wasn't trying to be reasonable with you. And so I kind of just had to I'm trying not to get bitter and upset because it's so easy. I've had to change so much about myself. Well, George, maybe he was hiding. I don't know. Maybe he was hiding the fact that he never gave a fuck in the first place. Maybe that was it. Who knows? Maybe he had another person. Who knows? I mean, fuck, I don't know. I don't know. And you know what? Ignorance is sometimes bliss. Let's be honest. Ignorance is sometimes bliss. And I guess in order to preserve my peace, I would rather remain ignorant. What I told my therapist is, and I wish he wasn't on vacation because I won't be able to see him until October, like the midpoint of October because he's on vacation. I mean, I understand he needs vacation time, but you know what I mean. What I told him was my fear is I'm afraid of what if he tried to reach back to me. I don't think he will. I don't think he will reach back to me. But let's just say there is a chance that happens. I'm afraid of what to say. Like on one hand, I want to say like go fuck yourself, don't message me again. But then on the other hand, it's like, should I give this a second chance or should I just ignore it completely? And I say this as someone who has like decision paralysis. Like when it comes to a decision, I have to like I have to brainstorm it repeatedly before I can make my mind up. I don't always know how to make a decision right on the spot. I always have to think it over and think it over and think it over. And that's one of the most frustrating aspects of me that I always have to think something over before I make my mind up. Well, I mean, sweet potato, if you can elaborate a little bit, that might help. I don't know. Maybe he is hiding something. I don't know what he's hiding, honestly. Your guess is as good as not better than mine because I don't know exactly the issue. You know what, George? That's probably one of the thoughts I've been having recently. Maybe if he says, "Oh, I want us to, I want you to give this a try with me again. I miss you." I probably should just not even give a fuck. I probably should not respond back to him. All right, well, I'll leave you hanging just as you left me hanging. How's that? You know, I'll leave you hanging just like you left me hanging. But the hardest about it is that I'm not trying to be angry or vindictive or because it's in my nature. It's in my nature to be a grudge holder. I can hold a grudge better than a pit bull holding a bone. I don't let go of a grudge. I'm very bad at letting go of grudges. And the problem with being a grudge holder is that it can poison your soul and it can corrupt who you are as a person. And I'm not trying to let this breakup corrupt me as a person or poison my soul. Well, sweet potato, that what you're saying, it makes sense, but I guess in my case, because I haven't had enough of it, enough of those relationships to complement me, it's kind of hard to distinguish it. It's hard to distinguish. What I can say is that he made me happy. I felt like I didn't have to put up facade. When you put a facade when you're not yourself around others and you take on sort of a second identity to be around others, that's how I usually am around people. I take on this second alternative identity of mine and I'm like completely different because I just don't know how to be my regular self around them. But with him, I felt that I could be my normal self. I didn't have to edit my responses. I didn't have to edit my personality. I felt that I could be myself with him. And that's why it felt painful when the relationship ended. I mean, it's life, right? But it wasn't like we were together for 5, 10 years and then we broke up. I think I would have handled it much better because then at least I had a long-term situation going on. But this relationship was fairly new, 3 months. And I guess I saw so much potential that I thought this relationship was gonna go far. I felt this relationship, if it was handled more carefully, he could have been the first person I married. All jokes aside, he could have been the first person I married. And I don't say those words lightly. So many people get married, especially at a young age. But I felt that it could have led to that point. Um, and what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna try to be, I'm gonna try to not hold a grudge over this situation. For once, I had to face myself in the mirror and sort of say to myself, this relationship ended, but this wasn't your fault. Okay. And this relationship ending had nothing to do with you. You may have had I have a few shortcomings, I get clingy, and I don't like that about myself. And I get in love too quickly with people. And I don't like that about myself either. But outside of these little short bumps, small bumps, sorry, outside of these small bumps, I didn't do anything wrong in the relationship. I made sure to understand his feelings. I made sure to compromise with him. And this is how he chose to repay me. And so I'm tired of wagging the finger at myself when really the finger should be pointed at him for screwing up. Yeah, sweet potato. I'm really trying to work this out with myself because you know what? Even though I can say he was at fault for the relationship ending, I was at fault as well in a sense because I just when people ask you this question, you need to learn how to love yourself before someone else loves you. I hate when people ask me that question because it should be easy to fill out the blanks, right? But I don't know how that feels because I've never felt any love towards myself. So that's why I keep screwing myself up because I don't know how to love myself. And so if this is how I feel about myself, then no wonder I keep attracting the same people and experiencing the same outcomes at the same time. Because look what I'm doing to myself. I'm hoping to find someone who can love me so that I can avoid the responsibility of loving myself and knowing my worth. But sometimes it escapes my mind and it's sort of like it's an autopilot type of function where I just autopilot think to myself, okay, let me find this person so I can be in a relationship with them so they can make me feel better about myself because I can't do it on my own. I need to do it through someone else because it feels easier that way, to be honest. In my case, it feels easier that way to find that through someone else. But all I can say is I feel like this relationship left me like chopped liver. I'm just in pieces. And I've been trying to sort of figure out what can I learn from this situation. What can I truly learn about this situation? Because I feel like there are so many moving pieces that I don't know where to start. I make things so much more difficult for myself than necessary. I get afraid of putting my foot down and telling people off because for the longest I've always been told that when I tell people that they're wrong, they usually kind of flip the script on me and they tell me, well, you should feel ashamed for putting people in their place. And now I guess I have to work around that so I don't feel ashamed for putting people in their place. So that I stop biting my tongue because God knows I have so many canker sores from always biting my tongue and putting up with people's nonsense. Um, but what I will do is I'm gonna keep improving, keep being myself. Oh, you think that was a red flag? It could have been. I don't know how it's a red flag. Unless he's hiding a relationship, a secret relationship. Maybe he was dating me and someone else at the same time. Unless that's the reason, or I don't know. I really don't know. It could be that. It could be that. Um, you know what, sweet potato, that could is he hiding something? Maybe he's hiding something from me that is outside of honesty. Maybe he was being deceitful the entire time. Maybe he had someone like a number two, a second option behind the works. And once he felt a stronger attraction or he could guarantee that second person, he decided, well, let me kick this one to the curb and let me focus on the new person I have now. Maybe that could be the case. And that's the unfortunate part about dating. In some cases, people might leave you high and dry and they don't offer you a good explanation. When I sent him that voice clip, it was around August 16th, but a few days prior, he wasn't responding to any of my messages. And I at that point I got fed up. I said, you know what? I'm not expecting you to message me throughout the day, but at the very least, like if I'm asking you, how are you doing? Let me know. I'm okay. I'm busy. I need a few days to myself. Cool. Great. I got you. At least you messaged me. It's just, and you know what he said to me? He said to me that he was overwhelmed. Now y'all tell me if I'm wrong here. Maybe I'm wrong. I won't say I'm completely wrong, but maybe I'm wrong to an extent. He said to me when I messaged him like a week ago, he said that the few days that he didn't respond to me before the breakup, that he was at the hospital with his grandfather and that he was too overwhelmed to respond back. Am I making this too difficult for myself? Like, should I feel upset? Did I screw up somewhere? Because nowhere before the voice clip was sent did he ever send me, oh, I'm at the hospital with my grandfather. Didn't send me a single message saying, you know what? It's like at this point, I'm starting to feel that he was using his grandfather as a crutch. And I hate sounding like a bitch, and I hate pointing that out because it's so callous of him. But I feel like he's using his grandfather as an excuse. Okay, that's what I think, and I could be completely wrong. And I'd rather be wrong, but at this point, that's what I feel. That's exactly what I feel. And what I did, is I kinda took an unhealthy dating pattern from 2020, and I kinda revisited this year, and so a week after I broke up with him, I started to message another guy, but I've been taking it a lot more slowly with this guy, but I realized, "Oh my god, I'm falling back into my pandemic pattern when I broke up with my first boyfriend, and then I immediately dated uh, my roommate like 4 months or 3 months after the breakup. I feel like, oh my God, I'm taking this pattern again where I want to just date right away. What the fuck is going on with me? I need to heal here for a little bit. Like, what am I doing? Repeating the pattern from 5 years ago? Sweet potato, and I might be wrong. Fuck, I might be wrong. That's why I asked, am I being callous here? Because there's a chance that I might be slightly callous. Um, you don't understand someone's situation unless you're with them, okay? Unless you're alongside them and you're experiencing their situation, you can never be sure of something. But I feel that this is always a BS excuse. The first time we were supposed to meet, he was he was planning to cancel because um his grandfather, he was at the hospital. He was having, I believe, like it had something to do with his heart valve. I think he was getting it changed or something. I don't know what it was. I don't remember the procedure, but it had something to do with his heart. And then he originally was going to cancel on me, but he met me the next day, and I appreciated it. But the first time he told me about the fact he had to skip, like literally a day before we were supposed to meet. And I was like, okay, well, if your grandfather doesn't feel good and you feel concerned about his health, you can stay. And I was like, okay, I was cool with it. The second time, when I was dropping my roommate, we were supposed to meet at a halfway point at a hotel, because my roommate was going to travel. So I decided, okay, why don't we meet here at a hotel for like maybe like a day? And he said then and there that he couldn't because his car broke down. I was like, okay, okay, like I was cool with it. And then in August, I believe it was August 2nd, we were supposed to meet again. And he said that he couldn't make it because his coworker had a car accident and his responsibilities were delegated to him. So he had to work that whole weekend. And I was like, okay, okay, now this is starting to trigger me a little bit. Like, what the fuck is going on here? And then I asked him, okay, when do you think we'll be able to meet again? And he said September. And that's when I was like, at that point, I was like, fuck this bitch. I'm literally, oh my God, I'm at this point where I'm trying to keep my cool. I'm not trying to be a drama queen about this nonsense. But you know what? I feel like now you're playing in my face. Like you're hitting me with dodgeballs straight in my face. Why am I trying to duck and weave and pretend like you're not playing in my face? Like you're playing in my face at this point. You're playing in my face, and I'm just letting you hit me with every single dodgeball you can possibly throw at me. Yeah, you know what, sweet potato, there is. But you know what I'm gonna do? Um, the reason I grew strongly attached to him was because he did help me in a sense. I felt that I was in a very bad place when we started chatting. Ever since I had my accident, I have not been in the best place, and he did help me in a sense. And I hate to say this about him, but I felt that he was sort of a guardian angel that sort of uplifted me from the darkness I was in, and that's why I felt a strong connection to him, because he helped me in more ways than one. But the excuses, I couldn't just let them fly anymore. I don't care what was his excuse. Maybe he had another side piece. Maybe he was in a relationship. Maybe he was like maybe insecure about dating me. I don't know what's the reason, and I don't care. He could have just told me flat out, I'm not looking to date. I'm just looking to build a friendship, and I would have been okay. I don't have a long list of friends, so adding another friend would have been nice. So I don't know. Okay, yeah, yeah, sweet potato, I guess. Yeah. What I am gonna do, and I don't know what I told my therapist, in order to kind of relieve of myself of these thoughts, I told him I'm just gonna more or less what I'm gonna do is that I'm just gonna try my best to not take it personally. I'm not gonna blame myself. I have my own shortcomings, and if I screw up, I screw up. I'll admit it. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I know myself so well, and I know when I fuck up. And I don't need someone to tell me that. I know it myself. Just like the voice clip, it wasn't the worst thing in the world, but when I realized, I could have been a little bit more gentle, I reached through one of his friends to see if he could message me back. And once he reached back to me a week ago, I told him, I'm sorry about the voice clip. And that was me taking accountability. He didn't deserve that from me, but I still did it anyways because I wanted to hold myself responsible. Because if you don't hold yourself responsible for your actions, they will come back later on to haunt. Yeah, George, that's a nice quote. I agree with you. I like the way you phrased it. Yeah, well, that's true. You can't always have the answers. This is what I'm gonna do without any expectations. Eight days ago, when I messaged him, he probably thought that I would be a groveling sack of shit, that I was gonna beg for a relationship. I bet he was disappointed that I didn't beg for a relationship 8 days ago. He was probably waiting just to give me the biggest middle finger to my face possible, because he probably expected me to say, "Oh, please come back. I want you back in my life." He probably expected these text messages from me, and I didn't give him that satisfaction. I didn't go, "Oh my God, baby, I miss you. Please come back into my life. I can't live without." No, you didn't get that from me. You did not get that from me. And I can be pretty sappy, and I can be pretty clingy, but you did not get that from me. You did not get that from me. And I'm glad that I didn't stoop that far. Um, but what I also will say is that here's what I'm gonna do. I'm not gonna put like an expectation that we will date again. But what I will do, because I have to be like realistic with myself. What I will do is every once in a while, especially when it's a holiday, I will just message him like Thanksgiving. I'll probably message him around Thanksgiving if I feel like it. And I'll just say like happy Thanksgiving. I hope everything's well with you and your family. And that's it. And hey, if he blocks me, then he's just making it easier for me. You know, he's just making it easier. I'm just gonna be nice, but I'm not gonna have an expectation. At that point, I feel like I'm in a position right now where he would have to literally, I'm just gonna exaggerate. This is an exaggeration, but if he wanted me back, he would literally have to, like, literally, he would have to literally kiss my crusty toenails if he wanted to be back in my life. You know, that's how I feel, and I don't think I'm gonna. I think I would torture him in a sense. Like I wouldn't give him that type of satisfaction either way. But I'll be nice. I'll say like, happy Thanksgiving. I hope you and your friends and family are doing well. Yeah. And if he decides to block me after that message, then he's just making everything easier for me. Well, yeah, you know what, sweet. I will, but I need to like I'm trying to use my energy a little bit differently. I don't because for me it's easier to just be bitter and upset and hold a grudge over it. So this time I'm just gonna let my kindness shine. But it's not to give him any satisfaction or anything. It's just to show that you try to break me, but you ultimately failed. You know, that's how I look at it. Oh, I walked away. I mean, but I have to. You know, I don't know if I'm ready to walk away all the way. I'll say I walked away from the idea of being in a relationship with him. But sometimes you need to bless a bitch. So that's probably why I will only message him. I'll be like, you know what? God bless you. You are a piece of shit in more ways than one. But I'm gonna take the high ground and just bless you and your family and friends because you really need it. I mean, that might be true, but what can I say? I have my own struggles here. I don't always know how to make the best decision, so I have to work with what I got. And I think the only reason why I would even do this is because I have two options. I have the option to get upset, hold a grudge, let this affect me for months, or I can take the high road and be nicey nice here and there and just not even sweat whatever he did to me. And I just prefer not holding a grudge over it. You know, I prefer not holding a grudge over the fact that this relationship ended. And that's why I would just message him. Just to say, you know what? You try to be mean, but I'm still gonna rise above it. Well, that might be true, George. That might be true. I told my therapist about it. I gave myself like a short term goal and a long term goal just so that my mind isn't flooded with insecurities about how I'm going to handle this. And I might not even follow either goal. I'm not saying I'm going to do this 100%. But instead of overthinking and overanalyzing everything, which is what I commonly do, what I'm going to do is a short term goal, which is maybe message him during the holidays and ask him, okay, well, how's your family? Are you okay? Cool. If he blocks me, that's easier. And my long term goal is, probably cut ties with him completely, either at the beginning of the year or like maybe around May of next year. But by then, I might just be completely over it and I might not even um, entertain him anymore. Oh yeah, sweet potato. I think I basically embrace the fact that no matter what, I can't be in a relationship with him. I can't be in a situation where I've always broken up with someone and I never given any person to this date a second chance. Like once I'm broken up with you, it's pretty much over. I broke up with my roommate, and what was it, 3 years ago? And something beautiful came out of that situation. Even though we broke up 3 years ago, he has been a very solid friend in my life. So you see, something beautiful came out of that breakup. Hard to believe, but something beautiful came out of that breakup. Um, but we'll see what happens. I won't hold my breath. I'm not gonna be in with him because I broke up with him. I was the one who broke up with him. He didn't break up with me. I broke up with him. I said, you know what? I told you from the very beginning that I can't deal with people who ghost me or with people who start showing me inconsistency. And if you can't keep it honest from the very beginning, all the way through the end, then you don't deserve to be with me. Okay? And I told him that. I set the terms and conditions from the very beginning. I told him, if you're going through something and you don't want to be in a relationship or whatever it is, you let me know. I won't hold it against you. I told him all of this. I had this pep talk with him from the very beginning because I know relationships tend to go south. And so I kind of said, okay, well, in order to kind of protect my heart and my feelings here, let me set the terms and conditions right away. And I did. I told him I don't have time for people to ghost me or for people to tell me they want something they don't actually want. And I'm glad I set the terms and conditions because if not, God knows how I would be handling this. And I don't drink, but if I didn't set the terms and conditions, I probably would have to drink in order to numb my feelings. But luckily, I kind of set a boundary like, you treat me this way, this is what's going to happen. And that voice clip was me saying to him, you know what? Like, you don't deserve me. I don't think you wanted to be with me. I think you like the idea of being with me to distract you from whatever's going at home. And I laid it out thick. I didn't hold back. So we'll see. The issue is I don't got a lot of like social skills, social acumen under my belt. So for me, when people tell me, "Oh, cut them off," I'm like, "Yeah, you're right, but I need to be like realistic." Because if I cut my roommate off, I would have had zero friends, and my roommate turned out to be, better as a friend than as a boyfriend. And I'm not saying this guy is gonna be my friend. I'm just saying that sometimes you have to let the pieces fall where they may in order to make a decision. And that's basically, where more or less where I stand with the situation. I don't expect a relationship. I don't expect a second chance. I'm not trying to expect anything because I always feel that expectations, quote this for your book, okay? Like, write this down, folks. Expectations are the devil in disguise. Or sorry, expectation is the devil in disguise. Yeah, that's what expectations are. And I have to be mindful that even if he was the one completely culpable for this situation, I didn't handle the situation 100% good either. I have to realize that when I form relationships, I usually form relationships based on trauma patterns. So I form relationships based on, okay, if I form a friendship or relationship with this person, I'm going to get the acknowledgement I want from them. And so that's already setting me back because that's not how you should be in a relationship. You should not seek relationships for people to acknowledge you. You should seek relationships so people can enhance you. That's how you should approach it. And I didn't. I approached this situation as, okay, well, if I date him, if I'm in a relationship with him, I'm going to get all the acknowledgement, all the validation, and that's going to make my world spin and go round. But I realized that after I broke up with him, that's when I realized, maybe I approached the situation too quickly for my own good. If it was a situation where, um, like, let's say if he cheated on me, then I probably would have kicked him to the curb without a second thought. But this wasn't a situation where it's easy to cut someone off. If he cheated on me and I took him back, then I'm there's something fucking wrong with me at that point. But I rushed into a relationship as well, and I didn't make the best decisions. So that's why I guess I'm not at that point where I'm like, you know what? Let me cut him off indefinitely because I made my own share of mistakes and I put myself in this situation as well. My want, need, or desire to have a relationship came from my own abandonment wounds. And I formed a relationship out of thin air and it just toppled all over me because I wanted to rush something that wasn't in the right place to be called a relationship. So, that's why I'm not at that point where I'm ready to say, you know what, screw this guy. We didn't have a long history. I can't hate someone this extensively because we didn't have a history to warrant that type of energy. Obviously, I can't say I want to date him again because he proved to me more or less that he wasn't completely truthful about his circumstances. But I'm not dating him. I'm not saying, like, if he, I think for me to date him again, this is a big if, we would probably, like, I would probably have to wait at least probably a year or close to a year before I give him a chance. If he messaged me tomorrow and said, "Hey, I want us to come back together," I would say, not so fast. You fucked up pretty badly." Because, sometimes, again, you can't always limit yourself. You know what I mean? Like, you can't always put these boundaries because eventually these boundaries are bound to wear you down. If I had made a boundary to cut ties with my roommate, I would have been left with no friends. If I said, "You know what? We broke up. There's no relationship left." I would have had no friendships. And what I learned with my roommate is that sometimes you can't judge a situation too quickly because then you might regret it. Now, I've been broken up with my roommate since May of 2022. And once I broke up with him, I never made the decision to go back to him. It's been 3 years and we've been able to coexist. And what I think I realized from that situation is I don't think we were meant to date, me and my roommate. When I look back, we weren't meant to date, but we were meant to at least be friendly and cordial to each other. And that's what I got from that situation. And I feel like a lot of people fly off the wall and they say, "Well, you should cut ties with him or her." And in some cases you do. If it's obvious like they're cheating on you or they're abusing you physically, then yeah, you break ties with them. But if it's a situation like this where it's a new situation, it wasn't that long, sometimes it's better to just leave things open-ended in some cases. I mean, if I was strict to the bone and I would have just simply seized all communications with my roommate, then I would have missed out the opportunity of having a good friend in my life. My roommate has been someone who has helped me in a sense come out of my shell. He's helped me like be more outgoing. You know what I mean? And if I cut ties with him, all that progress wouldn't have been possible without him. So that's how I look at life. Sometimes there are situations where you can like hit the gavel and make a decision right on the spot. But there are sometimes situations that are just too difficult to read out loud or predict right away. And sometimes you just have to wait and see what's on the other side. And that's what I did with my roommate. I waited and I tried to see, okay, where can we go from here? And being friends with him made me realize, I don't think we were meant to date at all because we were always arguing like cats and dogs. But once the relationship was over and we were able to transition as friends, I realized, yeah, you know what? We were better off as friends this entire time. And that's how I look at life. I try to explore the possibilities. Um, so with this guy, even though we broke up, I'm not gonna have this expectation that we will resume our relationship. We're not gonna be in a relationship because he let me down. And I don't know what to say about it other than I'm okay being acquaintances with him. I'm okay being friendly with him, but I don't think I'm okay opening my heart after the way he kept everything so secretive and out of bounds for no reason. So I have sort of like a cutoff to allow, and I'm not going to allow a relationship with him because he wasn't straight with me. And maybe this is a situation where his insecurities got the best of him, and maybe he just felt like, okay, I wanted to date him at first, but now I don't because of the distance situation. Maybe that's it. There's a lot of possibilities. Maybe there was no compatibility between us. Maybe it was the distance. Who knows? What I'm saying is, I'm going to take my time and I'm going to see how it goes. And if we can make a relationship out of it, great. And if not, if we can just even make a friendship or acquaintance, I'm okay. Because to say that I'm cutting him off would be like saying I handled the situation correctly from beginning to end. And the reality is, I didn't handle the situation correctly. I basically dated him with the intention of getting validation, acknowledgement from him, and that was my mistake. And that's why the relationship didn't work. People can sometimes sense your energy, and sometimes they can tell, okay, I feel like you're just trying to basically derive all my goodness to make yourself feel better. And maybe that's what he thought. And I have to be accountable for what I did as well. It wasn't just strictly him. I had a role to play as well. He just fucked up worse than me. That's the difference. By making excuses why he couldn't come up here. And but nothing's, if it was like something domestic related or he cheated on me, then we would not have this conversation. You know, if it was domestic or if it was something like an essay or it was a domestic assault or if it was like he cheated on me, then we wouldn't have this conversation. But I have to take the good and the bad at the same time. The good of the situation is that he always treated me with respect. The bad is that I can't be in a relationship with him because he fucked up. He was so insecure of himself that he couldn't be upfront about his feelings. He couldn't tell me, hey, I'm not ready to be in a relationship. I have too much on my plate. Or, hey, you live too far away from me, so I don't think we should date. Because that's one of the messages he sent me. And he sent this to me probably a few times. Now that I think back, he did say that one of the things he hated was the fact that we lived apart from each other because he wanted to spend more time with me. Hey, Mothership. So you see, I can't be this vindictive asshole right off the gate because he did say he wanted to spend more time with me. He did say, I wished you didn't live far away from me. So I have to be a little bit open minded. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to excuse everything he did either. I'm not going to excuse him. I haven't excused it any other time. There's no reason for me to start now. You're right, sweet potato, and you're right. Sometimes in life, there's just no, what is it? There's no right or wrong approach. Sometimes you just have to do what feels right. Even if it feels uncommon, even if it doesn't make sense, sometimes there's just no right or wrong answer. That's how it applied with my roommate. Initially, it may have felt right to just end the relationship and cut ties, but then I realized there was no right or wrong answer. I explored the possibility of us being friends, and it worked out. And why did it work out? Because when I dated my roommate, we didn't have a long repertoire with each other. We weren't friends for like 3, 6, 9 months and then we dated. We communicated through an app and then dated and moved in together right away. And so that's why I can't be in a situation where I go, well, let me cut this guy off completely. Maybe he cut me off. Who knows? If he blocks me when I message him later on, like around Thanksgiving, then I know that I don't have to waste my time anymore. But if he's open to communicating, that at the very least, I know that we can be acquaintances or friends at the very least. A relationship, if we were ever to entertain a relationship again, it would take a lot of work. It would take a lot of work. Like I can open my heart the first time very easily to you. But once the relationship ends, I pretty much like my heart goes inside a clam, and you can't pry that sucker open right away. And as I said, I've never like given any person I've dated a second chance. Like once you screw up the first time, it's pretty much you pretty much can call, like at that point you might as well just not even waste your time. It's curtain calls at that. Yeah, sweet potato. The bottom line is, um, oh this is really coming off. The bottom line is, I'm not gonna message him with the hopes of thinking we can date again. That's not it. I'm messaging him because I want to see if there's anything good left out of this whole situation. If it can be a friendship, I'm not gonna bitch about it. I broke up with my roommate 3 years ago. I made the decision to break up with him. And I never, ever since I broke up with my roommate, not once did I come back to him and say, hey, we should date again. It's been a year. It's been 2 years. It's been 3 years. We should date again. Not once. Not once did I. It's been 3 years, and not once have I ever asked my roommate if we can date again, if we can be in a relationship. I accepted to. I guess what I'm saying is, I would rather turn something bad into something good if there is a possibility. So even if this relationship with him didn't work out, if we can be acquaintances or friends, I'm okay with it because there's not enough bad blood between us for me to just say, well, I'll never be friends with him again. I'll never be acquaintances with him again. I haven't reached that point because the history we share together hasn't been that long. Now, my first ex, now that's a different can of worms. I, I broke up with him in 2020 and I never looked back because uh, he basically would slap me like across the head and he mistreated me. And once I broke up with him, I said, fuck you. Like, I'm done with you. And I was done with him. I was done with him. And not once did I ever want to revisit anything with him. because of how he treated me back then. But I know that then and there not to be anything with him, not a friend, not an acquaintance, not even give him a second chance. Because that relationship is 6 feet under. There's nothing to revisit there. But with this guy, there's a possibility we can be friends at the very least. And if there is that possibility, I would rather explore it. And I always say, look, I feel there's a higher likelihood of you being able to, what is the word? There's a higher likelihood of you making a friend out of a relationship than an actual love interest. Not all the time. Especially the person's unhinged, especially the person mistreated you, abused you, then obviously you cut ties at that point. But if there was just no bad blood and you were in a relationship, but you either argue like cats and dogs because you couldn't agree on anything, or there was just simply like a roommate type of relationship, but there was just no spark, there was no intimacy with that person, then you can say, well, you know what? We argue like cats and dogs. We never agreed on anything. Um, and we have this like kind of like a roommate relationship. So maybe we can be friends. And I noticed that one, me and my roommate, we argue, but like when we were in a relationship, there was just so much hostility between us that once we broke up, we were able to be more cordial with each other. There was less tension in the air, and we were able to coexist with each other. And so if nothing works out with this guy, I'm perfectly fine. If I message him in Thanksgiving and he blocks me, I'm not gonna cry over it. I'm gonna be like, okay, well, fuck, he just blocked me. Cool. Now I know where he stands with me. Now I know that I don't have to waste my time with him. And if he ever did reach back to me after blocking me, I don't have to give a fuck either. you know, but we'll see. The problem is sometimes you need to let the yarn ball, kind of like untangle itself until you find an answer or reach a conclusion. And this situation is still a yarn ball for me. I know the relationship ended between us, but why it ended exactly, I don't know. And I'm not even pushing for answers. What I'm trying to see is if I can derive something good from it. Because I could either just hold a grudge and hate the whole world because of this one relationship, or I can see if I can derive something good. And I realize, maybe I can be friends with this guy if I allow enough time to pass. But if he chooses to block me when I reach out to him the next time, then I'm okay with it because I made peace with it in my mind. And if he blocks me, then there's nothing else to explore. And that's fine. That's fine. I'm trying to derive good things. Like if I had look, I think of the consequences as well. Like if I just cut ties with my roommate, I would have had no relationships, no friendships, nothing. And I developed a good, solid friendship with my roommate. I derived something good from a bad situation. Oh, it's good. I hope you have a good one. I'm gonna leave here too. I'm gonna leave. I think I rambled enough, but I'm just gonna leave. I just wanted to vent a little bit. And it feels good to go live as much as I can. So I'm just gonna cut this video off. It was just a good little vent session for me. But otherwise, I'm just gonna leave. Yeah, you guys have a good day. Bye.